Maybe I should wear a hat.
There we go.
There you go.
All right. So where are we headed tonight? Hopefully someplace dry.
It's harvest time. That's the reason it rains. It's like, planting
Yeah.
season, it rains. It's harvest time, it
I
rains.
think they're getting ready to get out. I know some have started and some are getting ready.
Yeah.
So anything on your minds? Don't everybody speak at once. I do have something, but I hesitate to bring that out if there's something burning in your mind.
No. Run with it, Brett.
Because at some point last week, and I don't know how it came up, we talked about demon possession.
Whoa.
I think it was just an offhand comment. And I think I made the point, well, we need to investigate that further.
Okay.
Because if you look in the Gospels, that's quite frequent.
Really?
It's quite common. Well, with Jesus. So why don't we see that today, or do we see that?
Maybe that little boy's problem at school.
Yeah, she had a boy suspended today, kindergartner, for punching a classmate and then punching a teacher twice.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
The
Yes.
devil made him do it.
I don't know, I guess.
Possibly.
Yes, major anger issues.
All right, well, let's start at the beginning here then. Let's go to somebody look up Matthew 8:28. Somebody else, Mark 5:2.
Matthew 5:2.
No, Mark 5:2.
Okay, Mark. I can't
Matthew
hear you.
8:28, Mark 5:2, and Luke 8:28.
Okay, I got Luke.
All right. We'll start with Matthew. Matthew 8:28. Again, those verses are Mark 8:28, Mark 5:2, and Luke 8:28.
Okay.
Okay. So who's got Matthew?
I got Matthew.
All right. Let's go ahead and read it.
When he arrived at the other side in the region of the Gadarenes, 2 demon-possessed men coming from the tombs met him. They were so violent that no one could pass that way.
Okay. All right. All right. So the reference there is to what? Demon possessed, right?
Mhm.
Okay. So what about Mark 5:2? What does that say?
No one did Mark 5:2.
Mark 5:2.
Well, I got it here so I can read it. And when he came out of the ship, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit.
Okay. So that reference is to an unclean spirit. Does anybody else say anything different? Mine says evil spirit.
Mine says evil spirit.
Okay.
Mine
So
says
the
evil.
first one was demon possessed. The second one is evil or unclean spirit. And the third one is Luke 8:28.
Probably already read this in Sunday school.
When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God?"
Okay. I think maybe,
Oh,
I think,
I bet-
well, let's try 27. Let's read 27.
Okay.
Luke 8:27.
When Jesus stepped ashore, he was met by a demon-possessed man from the town. For a long time, this man had not worn clothes or lived in a house, but had lived in the tombs.
Okay. And that's the third reference to the tombs, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
Underground, out of public view, self-isolated. Okay. So these are not the only examples of this. There's other ones as well. So what do we think about this? because skeptics today, what would skeptics and critics today say about these episodes? Do you think? Probably that they weren't really demon possessed. They were what?
Insane.
Had some affliction of the mind,
Yeah.
right? There's some psychological issue with them.
Mhm.
Yeah, but sometimes they tell the demons to come out and they do.
I
There's
think the
another
exorcist.
one. I'm not sure it was one of the three that we read. Let's go back and look at him again. Matthew 8:28. What was the problem with the man? It says he was so violent that no one could pass that way. Mark 5:2. The man could not be bound. Okay, he could not be chained. And then what was the Luke one?
And then Luke 8:27. The word been closed. He just lived in the tombs. The man which had devils.
There's another one. There's another incident where Jesus confronted. Oh, go to Mark 9. I believe it's in Mark 9. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. You're getting ahead of us. You're jumping ahead.
I know.
Mark 9, what verse?
Mark 9. Mark 9:17. So the first two were
He had a dumb spirit.
could not be restrained, could not be chained. So what does it say in Mark 9:17?
He's talking about a dumb spirit.
A man in the crowd answered, "Teacher, I brought you my son who's possessed by a spirit that has robbed him of speech.
Yeah.
Whenever
Otherwise,
it seizes him, it throws him to the ground. He foams at the mouth, gnashes his teeth, and becomes rigid." Excuse me. So I believe it also, if you go on later here, it also says that it strikes him deaf and dumb.
Mhm.
Okay. So there are different manifestations. Like I said, that I think the critics today, the skeptics would say those are just psychological problems. And certainly we probably see people like that today, right?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Were the people, were the disciples who are writing this, were they just using a convenient term to try to describe something that we now more clearly understand as something different? Or were these people actually truly, do you think, possessed? And if they were, why do we not necessarily see that today, or do we?
I think we see it today, but I think we label it differently.
How would we label it today?
Well, there again, if they had, you've got someone who's it's mute, and they have their different references as to, they may think is as demon possessed, because I think because of the wording of, demon possessed is what that is. Society doesn't like to accept some things, the wording of that. But I think that for psychological and just for society itself, that they will label things. I mean, people are labeled differently. You now got different genders and all this other kind of stuff going on just for the flow of it. But it's the same thing. It all comes, you can call it blue, purple, whatever it is. But if it's red, it's red. And I just think that we just label things to suit where we are.
Don't you think that's kind of a problem with a lot of stuff that happens in the Bible? I mean, a lot of people look back and say, oh, well, they called it that back then, but we know really today it's this. So there really wasn't any miracle. There really wasn't anything unusual or divine that happened.
That's watering it down. That's you're trying to water down religion.
Well, yeah, but that's what happened.
Well, too bad for them who try to do that.
Well, let's go back to our thought though. It's impossible to know for sure, but just from your own perspective, were these people demon possessed? Do demons inhabit people?
Yes. I do believe that.
Okay. What do you base that on? And I'm not criticizing your opinion. I'm just asking.
No, I didn't take it as such.
Yeah,
I think that I have seen probably a few individuals in my own life
Okay.
experiences that I have felt that way.
okay.
And I didn't ask for any clarification through anybody else, but it's just
Personal experience then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Anybody else? I have in some of my Tuesday night stuff and even Tuesday mornings at the jail encountered recovering alcoholics and drug addicts who will tell you to your face, there is something inside me that compels me to do this. There is something I can't control in me that makes me want to reach for a drink or reach for a pill or take a hit.
Mm-hmm.
Is that anything different than demon possession?
No.
I had a guy stand up and he was very passionate about this because we got into an interesting discussion one night. He said, and he kind of was talking to the room, or I think he was actually talking to Fred, said, you can take a drink and it does nothing to you. You could take a drink and walk away. I take a drink and all of a sudden something takes over and compels me to keep going to destructive ends. Could that be this idea of demon? Could that be a satanic demon?
I think it could be, yes. Because he can't control it.
I'm looking for a verse here. I think it's in Peter. Head toward Peter. I think. Head toward Peter. First Peter 5:8. First Peter 5:8.
Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion looking for someone to devour. Resist him, standing firm in the faith, because you know that the family of believers throughout the world is undergoing the same kind of sufferings.
Your adversary, the devil, is like a prowling lion looking for someone to what? To annoy, to tempt, to test, to irritate? No,
Devour.
to what?
He wants to devour.
To devour, to consume. And that could, I would think, include everything up to demon possession. Let me ask you, have any of you in your life, in any area, ever felt that you were being compelled to do something or pushed towards something that you could not control?
Mm.
We may have an exorcism here tonight. That's not to suggest
That's a tough question. That's a tough question.
That's not to suggest that you should have, but And again, modern day scientists and skeptics would say, oh, well, what you call a compulsion, what you call possession by a demon, may be nothing more than a psychological need to act out because so-and-so wasn't loved as a child, or to drown and hide their emotions, or to solve their problems through drink. And I suppose that's a valid psychological explanation, but that doesn't discount the fact that could actually be a demon. Go to Ephesians 6. Ephesians 6, 12. Somebody wants to read that.
For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms.
And we have mentioned this quite often on Sunday mornings at various times, that spiritual warfare is real. I mean, there is an entire spiritual war going on all around us that we can't see. If you have faith in Jesus and you believe in this, that's happening. It's going on. It's going on around us in kind of a large sense, and it's also going on in us internally. Each and every one of us being pulled and pushed, and Satan trying to pull us toward him and to live in the flesh, and God trying to pull us to live in the spirit. So that war is ongoing. And that is a very real thing. So again, that if you believe in Jesus and you have faith in him, I would think you would have to believe that, right? Go to Luke 22:3. Luke 22:3. This will clarify it even a little more.
Luke 22:3.
22 verse 3.
I'll read it. Then Satan entered into Judas, called Iscariot, who was the one of the 12. He went away and conferred with the chief priests and officers of the temple police about how he might betray him to them.
Okay. Then Satan what? Satan tempted Judas? Satan
Entered him.
He entered him.
Vexed Judas? Satan frustrated Judas? No, what does it say?
He went in.
He entered him.
He entered.
Now,
Judas.
again, we might be looking at semantics here, but is that simple temptation? Does Satan enter us when we are tempted to do something sinful, or is there something deeper going on here? I mean, it's really impossible to know in a way.
Does it come down to what your actual resistance is to it, where you are, if Satan's going to, when he entered Judas, if you're looking at that as to what was Judas's frame of mind, what was his resistance at that point in time? It looks like it wasn't that strong. Where was he in? I often wondered, where was he in his thinking in his head, that he allowed that, and it was supposed to happen. We know that Jesus knew that it was going to happen, but for Judas to be the one, to be the individual, you understand what I'm saying? Asking?
Right. And not only did Jesus know it was going to happen, the Father had to allow it to happen.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Because we know that Satan can do nothing, and this goes back to chapter 1 of Job. In order to tempt Job and to bring all that punishment upon him, Satan had to get permission to do that.
Mhm.
So we would assume that you had to get permission to do that to Judas. So why would God allow that to happen?
Because he knew it was part of the plan.
Right. All
But
things had to be fulfilled.
all
Right.
things had to be fulfilled, but why, but it's like, why Judas?
Why
And you look
him?
at your own self. You look at yourself like on different things. If you're talking about if being entered it, where the devil will enter you, it's like, but why me? Why did I allow that to happen? Why, where was my strength and your power to say to cast him away? That you
Well,
didn't recognize that.
That brings up another good question. Did Judas have a choice?
No, I don't think he did.
That's what I wondered. Did he have a choice?
Now we gotta be careful here, because we believe in free choice, right? We believe in
Yes.
free will.
Well, he was tempted and he took the temptation.
Okay.
But could he have, when Satan entered him, could he have fought? You look at so was Judas demon possessed at that point?
Sounds
I
like
wonder.
The other people that we read about that were demon possessed, they didn't seem to have much choice. They could not control their action.
Mhm.
But could Judas control his?
Go back to we'll put even another twist on this. Go back to Exodus 9:12.
Oh, okay. Talks about the Lord hardening the heart of Pharaoh.
All right, so what does 9:12 say? This, of course, is during Moses' time with Pharaoh. He's trying, all the plagues are coming.
Mhm.
But the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart, and he would not listen to Moses and Aaron, just as the Lord had said to Moses. Did Pharaoh have a choice?
Well, it sounds like he didn't, because he says the Lord hardened his heart.
There's a really good explanation in the footnotes I'm going to let you read here in just a second. But we do know, for example, if we look at Romans 1, that's a really good explanation of it. And you don't, I'll just go there real quick. I know we're doing a lot of flipping back and forth, but I like this explanation in Romans 1. Romans 1:24. Well, actually, Romans 1:21. For although they knew God, they neither glorified him as God nor gave thanks to him, but their thinking became futile and their foolish hearts were darkened. Therefore, God gave them over in the sinful desires of their hearts. God gave them over. What do you think that means?
Whoa.
Because I think that pertains to Pharaoh, and I think it pertains to Judas as well.
He allowed them to be consumed by their
Okay,
evil
keep
thoughts.
going.
Mhm.
He allowed them to be consumed by their evil thoughts and what was going on.
Now, why would he do that?
It had to still fulfill his.
That part of it was fulfillment, yeah. But remember, we believe in a God that's omniscient. God knows every human heart.
Mhm.
And he knows what human hearts are evil and set against him. And in some cases, as we can read from Romans, when God turns them over, what he is saying is, you want to go that way? Go.
Oh, wow.
You want to go down that road? Go. I'll be here when you want to come back, but I will allow you to go the way your heart is inclining you to go because you are so far from me. That doesn't mean God has given up on them.
No.
That doesn't mean God has thrown them away. What God does is he allows them to go down the sinful road they're going. Now, why would he do that?
Sometimes you have to hit bottom before you can come back.
Before you can return. And what is the perfect example of that? In what story in the Bible?
Job.
Begins with a P and ends with a son.
Mm.
The prodigal son.
Prodigal son. Yep. Yep.
That's a
We had it.
perfect example of that. The father in the story represents God. The son comes and says, I want my money. I'm going to go blow it. The father says, you want to go that way? Go. I'm going to turn you over. I'm going to let you go the way you want. But you know what?
I'll be here.
I'll be here when you come back. Not only here waiting for you, but I will run out to throw my arms around. So God sometimes doesn't chase after people who are headed down the wrong road. He lets them go down that road because that road shows them their need for God and their need to come back.
And yet so many don't come back.
That's free will, though.
I know. But if they don't come back, you look at,
That is the definition of free will. So
I think that
I think Judas had a choice. I think Pharaoh had a choice, but God turned them over. All right. So even when Judas sins and does this despicable thing, can he be forgiven and come back to God?
yes, because there's no unforgivable.
Right.
Yes.
But what does he
He
do? He doesn't
went
come back to God.
He doesn't. He went out and hung himself.
He kind of gave him, he just kept going down the road he was
Yeah.
going. He could have turned around. It wasn't the sin of betrayal that destroyed Judas. It was the sin of not coming back to God in the end. And that's the difference between Judas and Peter. Two terrible betrayals of Jesus. One came back, the other did not.
Because Judas knew that he had messed up.
But so did Peter.
But yet but Peter did, he came back, but Judas just kept on going with it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And we all have that choice. Now, again, go to 1 Corinthians 10:13 here. Because where it says, Satan entered him. Okay, and did Satan overpower him to the point where Judas had no choice? 1 Corinthians 10:13.
Okay, the no temptation taken.
If somebody could read that.
No temptation has seized you except what is common to man. And God is faithful. He will not let you be tempted beyond what you can bear. But when you are tempted, he will also provide a way out so that you can stand up under it.
Mhm.
So we can say that even in the depths of his temptation, Judas probably had a way out.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that he was not simply being controlled and manipulated.
Mhm.
That's a great verse
Mhm.
when we're tempted.
That's a good verse.
We're not tempted beyond what we can bear.
I have that underlined.
but when you are tempted, he will provide you. What is the way out?
Ask forgiveness.
When you're facing temptation? I was sitting there tonight. I'm on a liquid diet for 3 days. Sitting here looking at a plate of noodles. I'm thinking, oh my
It was in
gosh,
his soup. He just has to drink the broth.
I so desperately want these noodles. What is the way out when we are tempted? What was his way out when he was tempted in the desert?
He told the
Could be
devil to
from me.
stay away from him.
He responded with the word.
Yep.
3 times he came back and said, it is written. So when you're tempted, when you feel overwhelmed, when you feel like you're ready to fall, always go back to the word. In my case, man does not live by noodles alone.
Alone.
You can have noodles one day.
One day I can have noodles.
One day you'll have noodles.
Until then.
You got to
So-
on your liquid diet or clear liquid diet.
Okay, let's go back then. Let's go back to what we were talking about, demon possession. All right, let's go back to those verses again, and I want you to hear something. Matthew 8:28. Okay. And actually, we're going to read verse 29. Somebody look up at Matthew 8:29 now.
I got it.
Okay, stand by. And then Mark 5:7. Okay, Mark 5:7. These are all related to the same stories we just read. And then Luke
Okay.
8.
I've got
Oh,
Mark 5:7.
Luke 8. Wait a minute. Oh, I'm in Luke 9. No wonder I can't. Luke 8. Oh, Luke 8:28.
Didn't we just read that one?
Yeah, probably. Never hurts to read it. All right. The Matthew reading.
What do you want with us, Son of God? They shouted. Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?
Okay, good. Next one in Mark.
Is Mark what, 5:8?
I believe so.
No, 5:7, you said.
Possibly. I've forgotten.
Okay.
already.
And cried with a loud voice and said, What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of the Most High God? I adjure thee, by God, that thou torment me not.
Okay, and the last one.
When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torment me."
What do all those things have in common?
They all recognize Jesus.
In every single incident,
What was the last one?
8:28. In every single incident, they recognized who Jesus was. They recognized him as the Son of God. They recognized what other people could not, even after all those miracles. It's kind of interesting. James says in James 2:19, you believe that there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder. So even the demons, because of this spiritual warfare going on, they recognize who Jesus is. Now, if you go back to the Matthew story, what do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come to torture us before the appointed time? When is the appointed time? What is the appointed time? Have you come to torture us before the appointed time? That's Matthew 8:29. What is the appointed time?
When, no, I was
No,
gonna say,
go ahead.
when Jesus comes back again.
That's right.
The end times.
When Jesus comes back, he defeats Satan and all his forces and throws them into the lake of fire forever. That's the appointed time. Okay. The one thing I never have understood about this story, and maybe you guys can explain it to me. These demons are in this guy, and they tell Jesus, look, if we have to leave this guy, send us into the herd of pigs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do the pigs then do?
Is that where they jump
Run off a cliff.
Yeah, they jump off into the lake and die in the water. Why would that be preferable? Maybe they would live again that way, or they go on to inhabit somebody else. I don't know. I've always wondered about that. Let me read you the footnote I've got on mine for Matthew 8:28. It says, demon-possessed people are under the control of one or more demons. Demons are fallen angels who have joined Satan in his rebellion against God and are now evil spirits under Satan's control. They help Satan tempt people to sin and have great destructive powers. But whenever they are confronted by Jesus, they lose their power. These demons recognize Jesus as God's son, but they didn't think they had to obey him. Okay? Faith is more than belief. By faith, you accept what Jesus has done for you, receive him as the only one that can save you, and live out your life, your faith, by obeying his commands. So I still have never really understood that point about wanting to go into the pigs, what they thought they were going to do. Maybe they didn't realize the pigs were going to jump off. I don't know. Okay, so in every instance, the demons are confronted by Jesus, and what happens? He has authority over them. He removes them. Now, whether that involves their destruction or simply removal, but he has authority and power over them. Okay? Do we as well?
I would like to think yes.
Okay. Stand by. Hold on with that.
Okay.
Let's go to Matthew 12:28. Put your finger here where you're going to be. Matthew 12:28. Somebody want to read that?
But if it is by the
Oh,
Spirit of God that I drive out demons, then the kingdom of God has come upon you.
Okay. What verse is it?
That was
28, 12:28.
Yeah.
But if I drive out demons by the Spirit of God, then the kingdom of God has come upon you. In other words, what? You should be able to do that, right?
mhm.
Go forward to Acts chapter 5. Acts 5:16.
Oh my damn.
Crowds gathered also from the towns around Jerusalem, bringing their sick and those tormented by evil spirits, and all of them were healed.
Okay. And finally, a couple chapters forward, Acts 8, verse 6. And 7, I guess. 6 and 7.
When the crowds heard Philip and saw the signs he performed, they all paid close attention to what he said. For with shrieks, impure spirits came out of many, and many who were paralyzed or lame were healed. So there was great joy in that city.
With shrieks, evil spirits came out of many. Who was doing that?
Jesus.
Well, no. Jesus, we're in Acts. Jesus has ascended. Who does it say in verse 7 is doing that?
It's Philip.
Philip. The apostles were doing all the stuff in Acts. So does that suggest that we should be able to, just like you see on TV, go up to somebody and say,
You're healed.
healed, evil spirit, get out of you. I command you in the name of Jesus. Shouldn't that work?
I think we had this discussion before
We did.
that
What
all
did
of
we
us,
say?
we said, or we talked about it, that why can't we do everything? Because he told the apostles that they could do everything that he did. And shouldn't we be able to do that too?
Okay.
But some of us could if that was our talent, if that was what we were
Your
supposed to
spiritual
do.
gift?
Yes.
Healing? Okay.
Makes sense.
Go forward to Mark, or not forward, backwards to Mark 9 and start at verse 25. Okay. Everybody, Mark 9:25. When Jesus saw that a crowd was running to the scene, he rebuked the evil spirit. You deaf and mute spirit, he said. Okay, there's the one we talked about, was deaf and mute. I command you, come out of him and never enter him again. That's interesting that you would have to tell him never to enter him again. I wonder if they could come back. The spirit shrieked, convulsed him violently, and came out. The boy looked so much like a corpse that many said he's dead. But Jesus took him by the hand and lifted him to his feet, and he stood up. After Jesus had gone indoors, his disciples asked him privately, why couldn't we drive it out? They tried and they couldn't do it. He replied, this kind can come out only by prayer. So there is a suggestion there that there are situations where the disciples and the apostles' power was limited for whatever reason. There were some that could not some demons that could not be driven out. Jesus did those. So I think it would be a false assumption to say all we have to do is go up to somebody and, you know, if you could do that, I would take out the demons from my cats. Well, at 5 a.m, I would take out the 5 a.m. demons from them. So, yes, Jesus has authority over all demons. I suppose in some certain situations, people have been gifted that would be part of the gift of healing that certain people have, that they can do that. Is there a reason though why God would not want to get a demon out of someone? A good question. You think about that, head over to 2 Corinthians 12. Would there be a reason if someone was afflicted with a demon that God would just not want the demon to be removed? Second Corinthians 12:7. Okay. Everybody there?
Yes.
To keep me, and this is Paul speaking, to keep me from becoming conceited because of these surpassingly great revelations, there was given to me a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me, but he said, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses so that Christ's power may rest on me. So why would it be that God may not want to take a demon away?
Is he testing them?
I'm not sure I'd say it was so much. Well, that could be part of it too. But our temptations, our weaknesses, our suffering that we find in the flesh, especially from Satan, remind us of what?
How
Show
much
us
we need
our
God.
show
much
us
we
our
need-
need for God.
Mhm.
And that's exactly what Paul's saying.
If you take away that, then you don't need me.
Right. It
You'll
even
think
says
you-
there in verse
you'll
7 to
think that you
keep
won't
me
need
from
me.
becoming conceited.
Yeah, you'll think you do not need me.
Go, to follow up on that, go to Luke 17 real quick.
And we do need him.
If God answered every prayer, if he took away every problem, I
Yeah.
do think
We
there
would
be
become
those
conceited.
who-
Mhm.
Yeah, we would.
and I'm telling you, the group on Tuesday night, the guys in jail will tell you the same thing. I came to Jesus because I hit rock bottom.
Lay down.
I realized I can't do this without him.
Mhm.
Now, thankfully, we don't have to hit rock bottom to get to that point. Some people have to be taken that long. Okay, all right, so Luke 17,
Luke
starting at
17.
verse 11. Now, on his way to Jerusalem, Jesus traveled along the border between Samaria and Galilee. As he was going into a village, 10 men who had leprosy met him. They stood at a distance and called out in a loud voice, "Jesus, Master, have pity on us." When he saw them, he said, "Go show yourselves to the priests." And as they went, they were cleansed. One of them, when he saw he was healed, came back, praising God in a loud voice. He threw himself at Jesus' feet and thanked him. And he was a Samaritan. Jesus asked, "Were not all 10 cleansed? Where are the other 9? Was no one found to return and give praise to God except this foreigner?" Again, the point is they got what they want from God, and as soon as they got it, they didn't need him anymore. They went away. And I think God can work in our lives that way, that sometimes maybe an alcoholic is going to struggle with that his whole life or her whole life as a reminder of how much they need God. I was just talking to a guy Tuesday. He was originally busted and sent to jail, I think in his 20s or 30s. He was clean for 10, 20 years, got away from God. Now he's back in jail. After 20 years of being sober. Why? He'll tell you, I got away from God. Didn't think I needed him anymore. So it may be that God allows us to go through these sufferings and difficulties and thorns, as Paul describes it, in our life, to remind us of our need for him. Some people have to go to the bottom of the barrel to learn that lesson. Others do not. So that's why the Bible tells us, Paul specifically says it in 1 Corinthians, rejoice in your sufferings.
Give praise. Give praise.
Draws you closer to God.
Mhm.
Are there any other questions or thoughts about that? Because I think I'm going to go ahead and close this out.
Yeah, you probably need a little liquid.
I what?
I said you
Liquid.
could probably
Oh,
use
yeah.
a little bit.
I got to go drink my dinner.
I think you probably got some Jello at home in the refrigerator for you.
Jello is not,
He didn't want Jello.
it's too sugary.
Oh, we went with sugar-free for Steve. He's having sugar-free Jello, so he can have that. He's on a liquid right now.
So I don't know. Anyway, that's my excitement for the evening. All right. We will end it there.
All right.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's stop the recording now.